another aspect I would like you uh, to elaborate. Do you think that talking about the word anti-national, NIA has opened up a caveat saying, boss, that everything which is being done, if it somehow creates a space for those who are coming from Bangladesh and Myanmar, you will have it.
Well, I think what has happened is that what was being discussed in hush-hush fashion has come out in the open post the arrest of one individual couple of days back, and the kind of information which has been revealed by the NIA is that that there are militant groups which are actively supporting militant groups in the state of Manipur, which is fomenting and fueling the trouble between the two ethnicity as we speak. So I think this official statement definitely makes the elephant in the room out in the open, because there have been talks about it, but they were also always counter jibe that that this is a figment of somebody's imagination, or the rot could not be that big and all. But I think post what the NIA has revealed, a lot has changed in the last 72 hours, if I may say.
I'm also joined by Dr. Tombing, Assistant Professor, National Law University. Thank you very much. Dr. Tombing, do you believe that the NIA, the way it has acted, picked up people from both communities, has sent a very strong message that Manipur as a state will not be allowed to be used by anti-national actors, and protest is one thing, inter-ethnic issues are one thing, but the armed gangs which had taken over the law and order machinery, that will not be allowed. That messaging which NIA has done is changing the game.
I don't know. I don't know whether they have changed the game, but then it is maybe picking up a small fish in the pond and letting go the larger fish, maybe. So
can because you just elaborate, Dr. Tombing, can you just elaborate on that? What is the larger fish and the smaller fish?
See, at the end of the day, one is Mr. Gangte, another one is Mr. Moirang Theme, right? And then when the ethnic clash began, the narratives that were created were very derogatory. First, the narrative was illegal immigrants, then poppy planters, and then narco terrorists. But then if we are narrowing down to only two persons, and then if we imagine that these two persons would be the principal culprit, I think we are not making any headway. What we now got is maybe that this person who have been arrested might have some link with some groups who might have vested interest, but then on the larger context, they might be not necessary. The larger, we're not able to maybe create the larger picture with regard to the issues.
Larger picture regards to the issue, but Brijesh, what is the larger picture? Isn't the larger picture law and order?
Well, I think the larger picture is law and order, and I think what is not happening and has not happened for a while now, a long time now, if I may say so, is the fact that there is no concerted crackdown on people who are taking law in their own hand, and they have been allowed to go scot-free for a very long time, despite with so many boots on the ground. That is not happening, and there have been constant talks about how the state government is going to get back the guns which are playing a vital role as far as arming one ethnicity to the teeth, and how they're not fearing either the army or the Manipur police. I think a crackdown has to be seen to be believed, in the sense that that those key operators have to be arrested. So only after that, I think a sense of purpose, or I'd say an understanding, will go down. Go down those vigilante groups and all, which are operating with impunity. That that the state means business, and until unless that happens, I don't see situation changing a lot.
But isn't that true, which Mr. Tombing, Brijesh is talking about? State means business, and I think that's what is happening. By going against people who are actively challenging the law and authority of the state, when the state comes down, it sends a clear signal.
Of course, if state would have willed, this ethnic cleansing, or maybe this ethnic violence, or this war, which has happened for 5 months now, should not have festered for 5 months. In fact, I believe that the intelligence agency and all that, they're quite capable. And then if they want to nip the problem in the bud, they could have done it 5 months back.
But why are you using the word ethnic cleansing? I think it's an ethnic conflict.
See, I'm just, putting across some concern that has always been played out with regard to this particular issue. Because from a Kuki-Zo community context, the narrative is different. From a Meitei community context, the narrative is different. It depends on
But
which
sir, Mr.
dominating
Tomlin, sorry,
group
I'm
of
not trying to
people.
stop you, but in the narratives, the reality is the fact. And we as a journalist, we will only talk about facts. You know, Kuki can have a narrative, Methi can have a narrative, the Naga can have a narrative, but I'm going to stick to the facts. I'm a
Exactly.
journalist.
Let's stick to the fact. And one of the fact is the emotion that is attached with it. And I use the word the dominant areas. For example, in a Kuki Zo community dominated areas, the victim perspective is very different from the Meitei side. And then in the Imphal Valley area, the victim's perspective of the larger Kuki Zo community is very different. And that perspective changes with the template. It is in that context. Therefore, I use words like war, then ethnic clash, all this. It is the narrative which has been allowed to fester so far, and this has helped nobody, frankly speaking, because if we see the bites of the head of the state, for example, Gangte, the arrest of Gangte is much highlighted, but the other person's arrest is not at all highlighted. But then both the persons, the NIA have nabbed them, and then the NIA provides that there are evidences against them with regard to some kind of sponsoring from across the borders, including Myanmar and Bangladesh.
But Brijesh, you know, when we talk about Manipur, in last 4 months, we have always spoken in context of communities. But for the first time, when NIA and CBI sprung into action, there was a concerted focus on those who have been assisting the armed cadres and are not Indians from outside. Doesn't it clearly shows that there is a thinking within the Home Ministry to just go after these people so that Manipur does not become a fertile ground for them?
Well, I think Manipur is a very important state, you know, given the kind of long border, international border it shares with Myanmar and others. And the fact of the matter is that this is one concern which has been highlighted time and again by all the experts and especially by the security officers, that, you know, the situation cannot be allowed to fester in that level. There have been talks about, you know, how a truckload of weapons and all have made entry into India, and you know, supply of illegal weapons which are going on, and, you know, making of homemade weapons. Usually, you know, in the north of India, when we talk of homemade weapons, you know, limited to very you know, usual country-made pistols and all. But the kind of homemade weapons which our reporter saw when he went to cover this conflict were military grade weapons, you know, capable of causing high destruction. So a lot of weaponry was being supplied into the ground, and given the state of porous border and the situation in Myanmar junta, you know, it is a fertile ground. And I think, you know, the ministry has done, or the center has done a very wise thing in going after these things, because until unless you contain these things, you know, ethnic conflict, you can still get a handle on. But once these foreign players come into picture and have a bigger say as far as this narration is going on, then it makes the task of controlling all of it all the more difficult.
Okay, I'm also joined by Rajat Sethi, former advisor to Manipur Chief Minister Biren Singh. Rajat, a very warm welcome on the show. Is it correct for me to say that NIA has changed the game in Manipur, Rajat?
Certainly, Kartikeya, this is, you know, directionally going to really bring about significant changes in the ground situation in Manipur. NIA so far had steered away from, you know, from participating in carrying out operations in a live and a volatile situation. But, you know, with some impunity, we have seen that a lot of valley-based insurgent groups, as well as satellite groups of the Sioux groups on the hill areas, have been roaming freely and extorting common people in the name of fighting this, you know, ethnic conflict. Based on that, there were enough number of inputs which the law and order within the state were receiving continuously, as well as the intelligence bureau had significant details, and they have been building a significant case for all of these months, doing the planning as to how to crack down on these insurgent groups who were having who were having a pretty easygoing time in their respective areas. I think NIA's crackdown is going to do two, three things. First of all, it will put clear-cut message out that any insurgent groups who've been, part of any banned group or is accused of waging war against India, going against India's sovereignty, will be hunted down, and due justice would be given to them. That is one thing which is established. That is going to deter a lot of insurgent groups who are freely moving and wielding weapons. Two, third thing what is going to happen is that what all these stray incidents that we are seeing around violence both in the valley and in the hills is being motivated by these insurgent groups. That too will be would be checked if NIA continues these crackdown on these militant groups. I think both the communities should come out actively in support of the NIA operations. I'm hearing that certain spokesperson entities have emerged in the hill areas who are trying to oppose NIA's action. That is rather unfortunate. In fact,
Rajat,
NIA
can I
has
ask you one thing? This thing has worked well in giving the message. Why wasn't this done little earlier? In the day. This sort of a deployment or this sort of a narrative changing act when it comes to national security.
So this is a great question, Kartikeya. From an operational standpoint, what I feel is that containing the situation was the primary objective all these months, and this is how operationally the Manipur police was asked to ensure law and order in the valley areas, and Assam Rifles was tasked to ensure that combing operations and basic law and order is maintained in the hill areas. That's how the operational division was done, and it was assumed that over a period of few months things will completely settle down. But something that did not work in all of these days was what I think the central government did not anticipate was that these insurgent groups in both the hills and the valleys are going to play a spoil sport. They did not account for it, and I think this was the principal reason why we see violence continuing even till date.